The year is 1929. A Turkish naval officer is clearing dust from shelves inside the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. He picks up a rolled piece of gazelle skin and freezes. Staring back at him is a map drawn in 1513, showing the coastline of a continent that wouldn't be discovered for another 307 years. Antarctica, mapped in stunning detail, without ice. That discovery should have rewritten history. Instead, it was buried. In this video, we're examining 10 ancient maps that show places that should not exist. Places mainstream science says the map makers couldn't possibly have known about. And by the end, you'll have to decide for yourself. Were these lucky guesses, or proof of a lost civilization that mapped the entire world thousands of years before us? Map number 1, the Piri Reis Map, 1513. Let's start with the map that started it all. In 1513, Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis compiled a world map on gazelle skin parchment. He wasn't guessing. He noted in the margins that he used approximately 20 older source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. The 4th century BC. Now look at this, the eastern coastline of South America, drawn with extraordinary accuracy, the western coast of Africa. Proportionally correct. But it's what sits at the bottom of this map that stopped researchers cold. The northern coastline of Antarctica, drawn 307 years before any European explorer would set eyes on the continent. But here's where it gets truly impossible. In 1960, Lieutenant Colonel Harold Ohlmeyer of the United States Air Force compared the Piri Reis map to modern seismic data of Antarctica's subglacial topography. The actual rock coastline buried under a mile of ice. His conclusion? The map showed the coastline as it would appear without ice. A coastline no human should have seen for at least 6,000 years. The correlation was 0.98, near perfect. Now, the mainstream explanation is simple. Piri Reis was just guessing. He was sketching Terra Australis Incognita, the imagined southern land that European scholars had theorized about since the ancient Greeks. Pure speculation that happened to match reality. But here's the problem with that explanation. Guesses don't have a 0.98 correlation coefficient with seismic survey data. Guesses don't accurately depict mountain ranges that sit under 2 kilometers of ice. So where did the source maps come from? Who mapped Antarctica when it was ice-free? And how did that knowledge survive long enough for a 16th century Ottoman admiral to copy it? These are questions that multiply faster than answers, and this is only map number 1. If you think that's impossible, the next map is even worse, because it shows the entire continent. Map number 2, the Oronteus Finaeus Map, 1531. 18 years after Piri Reis drew his famous map, French mathematician Oronteus Finaeus published this, a complete world map. And there at the bottom, Antarctica. Not a vague outline, not a speculative blob. A fully detailed continent with mountain ranges, river valleys, and a coastline so accurate that when Charles Hapgood overlaid it onto modern projections, the match was remarkable. Hapgood was no conspiracy theorist. He was a professor of history at Keene State College in New Hampshire, and when he presented his research to Albert Einstein, yes, that Einstein was so intrigued that he wrote the foreword to Hapgood's book. What Hapgood found was this: the Finaeus map didn't just show Antarctica, it showed Antarctica with ice-free coastal regions, rivers flowing into the sea, inlets matching the real subglacial terrain that wouldn't be confirmed until the International Geophysical Year surveys of 1958. Think about that for a moment. A map from 1531 showed details confirmed by satellite technology 427 years later. The skeptics say Finaeus was drawing Terra Australis, the mythical southern continent. But mythical continents don't have river systems that match geological data. They don't have mountain ranges where seismic surveys later find mountain ranges. Someone surveyed this coastline, someone with ships, someone with technology we don't account for in our textbooks. 2 maps of ice-free Antarctica is already difficult to explain, but the third map doesn't just show the coastline. It reveals a secret that was confirmed only 200 years later. Map number 3. The Buache Map, 1737. Philippe Buache was the royal geographer of France, one of the most respected cartographers in 18th century Europe. In 1737, he published a map that should have been impossible. It shows Antarctica, divided into 2 separate land masses, split by a waterway running through the middle. For over 200 years, scientists dismissed this as fantasy. Then, in 1958, seismic surveys revealed the truth. Antarctica is effectively 2 land masses, East Antarctica and West Antarctica, connected by ice, but separated by a deep subglacial trench. If the ice were removed, rising sea levels would indeed split the continent in 2. Exactly as Buache drew it in 1737. Buache claimed his map was based on earlier source maps from other explorers, but no European had visited Antarctica in 1737. No one would officially set foot there until 1820. So we have 3 maps now, 3 different cartographers, 3 different centuries, all showing the same impossible thing, an Antarctica that no one alive should have known about. This isn't coincidence anymore. This is a pattern. 3 maps of Antarctica is already a pattern, but the next map doesn't show the south, it shows the north, and what it reveals is just as impossible. Map number 4, the Zeno Map, 1380. In the late 14th century, Venetian brothers Niccolo and Antonio Zeno allegedly created a map of the North Atlantic based on their travels. That map was published by a descendant in 1558, and on it sits Greenland, mapped with extraordinary accuracy. Mountains, fjords, rivers, all positioned with a precision that seems impossible for the 14th century. But the truly disturbing detail? The map appears to show Greenland's subglacial topography, not the ice sheet we see today, but the actual landmass beneath it, including mountain ranges that wouldn't be confirmed until airborne radar surveys in the 20th century. For decades, the Zeno map was dismissed as a hoax, a fabrication to boost family prestige, and some scholars still hold that view. But if it's a hoax, how did a 14th century forger accurately depict what lies under 2 kilometers of Greenland ice? The same question keeps coming back, over and over, with every map we examine. Not who drew it, but who drew what they copied from. We've seen maps of ice-free Antarctica and ice-free Greenland, but the next map doesn't reveal hidden ice. It reveals a land bridge that vanished 12,000 years ago. Map number 5, the Haji Ahmed Map, 1559. In 1559, a map attributed to the Ottoman cartographer Haji Ahmed depicted something no 16th century mapmaker should have known about: a land bridge connecting Asia to North America, right where the Bering Strait sits today. That land bridge, Beringia, existed during the last ice age. It was submerged by rising sea levels approximately 11,000 years ago. 11,000 years before this map was drawn. The map also shows the western coast of North America with a level of detail that European explorers wouldn't achieve for another 2 centuries. There is no mainstream explanation for how a 16th century Ottoman cartographer knew about a land formation that had been underwater for 11 millennia. None. Unless, once again, the mapmaker had access to source material far older than anything in our historical record. 5 maps, 5 impossibilities, and we're only halfway through. The next map might be the most shocking yet, because it shows a country that wasn't supposed to exist for another 300 years. Map number 6, the Cantino Planisphere, 1502. In 1502, an Italian spy named Alberto Cantino smuggled a Portuguese navigation map out of Lisbon. That map, now one of the most important documents in cartographic history, shows something that defies explanation: the eastern coast of South America, mapped in detail, including regions of Brazil that Portuguese explorers had barely touched. But that's not the impossible part. Look at the bottom of the map, there, below the tip of Africa. A coastline stretches eastward, a landmass that bears an uncomfortable resemblance to Antarctica, drawn in 1502, 20 years before Magellan's fleet would complete the first circumnavigation, over 300 years before anyone would officially sight the southern continent and the longitude. The longitude of South America on this map is accurate to within half a degree. In 1502, no one had a reliable method for calculating longitude at sea. That technology, the marine chronometer, wouldn't be invented until 1761. So how was this map so accurate? The Portuguese had skilled navigators, certainly, but skill doesn't explain longitude accuracy that exceeds the technology of the era by 2.5 centuries. Someone, somewhere, had already measured this world. And that knowledge was circulating in maps that we have no official record of. The Cantino map raises the question of stolen knowledge, but the next map raises an even bigger one. Who named an entire continent before anyone had explored it? Map number 7, the Waldseemüller Map, 1507. In 1507, German cartographer Martin Waldseemüller created what is often called America's birth certificate. It was the first map to use the word America, named after explorer Amerigo Vespucci. But that's not why this map is on our list. The Waldseemüller map shows the Pacific Ocean, the western coast of South America, 5 years before any European had seen it. Vasco Núñez de Balboa wouldn't sight the Pacific until 1513. Magellan wouldn't cross it until 1521. Yet there it is, in 1507, a full ocean on the other side of a continent that Europeans had barely begun to explore. Waldseemüller later grew so uncomfortable with his own map's implications that he removed the name America from later editions. He seemed to realize he had published something he couldn't fully explain, but the map survived. Only one copy of the original 1507 edition exists today. The United States Library of Congress purchased it in 2003 for $10 million, the most expensive map ever sold. $10 million for a map that shows things that shouldn't have been known. 7 maps, each one more impossible than the last. But the next 3 maps reveal something none of the others do: evidence of the civilization that may have created the original source maps. Map number 8, the Mauro Map, 1450. In 1450, Venetian monk from Mauro completed what many consider the greatest medieval map ever created, and it breaks every rule. First, it's oriented with south at the top. This wasn't European convention, it was Arabic, suggesting Fra Mauro had access to Islamic source materials that most European scholars didn't. Second, it shows the southern tip of Africa as circumnavigable, with the Indian Ocean as an open sea. European consensus at the time insisted the Indian Ocean was enclosed. Bartholomew Dias wouldn't round the Cape of Good Hope until 1488, nearly 4 decades later. Third, it includes details of the East African coast, the Indian subcontinent, and Southeast Asia that exceed what any European traveler had reported. The proportions are astonishingly accurate for a world without satellites. Fra Mauro was a monk who never left Venice. He was working entirely from source maps and reports. The question is, whose reports? Whose maps? Because the level of accuracy on this map exceeds the combined knowledge of every known European explorer alive in 1450. Map number 9, the Dulcert Portolan chart, 1339. Portolan charts were medieval sailing maps. Most were rough, practical, imprecise. The Dulcert Portolan of 1339 is none of those things. It depicts the Mediterranean and Black Sea coastlines with a precision that cartographic historians still can't fully explain. The latitude and longitude of key ports are accurate to within half a degree, an accuracy that would not be surpassed for another 400 years. In 1339, European ships navigated by dead reckoning and crude compasses. They had no chronometers, no sextants, no satellite imagery. Yet this map achieves a level of precision that rivals early modern cartography. Where does this precision come from? Charles Hapgood believed the Portolan charts weren't created in medieval times at all. He theorized they were copies, traced and retraced over centuries, from originals created by an advanced maritime civilization that predated recorded history, a civilization that could calculate longitude, that could survey coastlines from above, that mapped the world, and then vanished. 9 maps, 9 impossibilities, but the 10th and final map isn't just impossible. It might be the smoking gun that connects all of them. Map number 10, the map of the creator, Dashka Stone. In 1999, Russian scientist Alexander Chuvarov discovered a stone slab in the Ural Mountains. It weighed over a ton. It was made of 3 distinct layers: dolomite, diopside glass, and calcium porite. Carved into its surface was a 3-dimensional relief map of the Ural region. Rivers, valleys, mountain ridges, all depicted with precision, including ancient riverbeds that geologists confirm existed millions of years ago but have long since dried up. But the detail that stopped researchers cold was this: the map appears to include artificial structures, dams, channels, irrigation systems, engineered waterways that don't exist in nature. Initial estimates dated the slab to approximately 120 million years old, based on the shell fossils embedded in its surface. That date is obviously controversial. Later analyses have suggested more conservative timelines. But even the most conservative dating places this map far beyond any known civilization's capabilities. The Dashka Stone, or the Map of the Creator as it was nicknamed, remains one of the most debated artifacts in alternative archaeology. Is it genuine? Was it misidentified? We don't have definitive answers, but we do have 10 maps now. 10 artifacts from different centuries, different cultures, different continents, all showing the same impossible thing. Knowledge that shouldn't exist. So where does this leave us? 10 maps, spanning from the 14th to the 18th century, drawn by cartographers who openly admitted they were copying from older sources. Sources that no longer exist. Sources that contained knowledge of the world that no known civilization should have possessed. Antarctica without ice, Greenland without glaciers, land bridges submerged for 11,000 years, longitude accuracy centuries ahead of its time. The mainstream explanation asks us to believe these were lucky guesses, coincidences, mythical projections that happen to match reality. But coincidences don't repeat 10 times. Guesses don't achieve 0.98 correlation coefficients. And myths don't contain geological data that matches satellite surveys. Charles Hapgood believed these maps were remnants, fragments of a global survey conducted by a lost maritime civilization. A civilization advanced enough to calculate longitude, to survey coastlines from elevated positions, to create maps that were then copied and preserved through millennia of knowledge transfer, from ancient libraries to medieval monks to Ottoman admirals. We may never know who they were, but these maps prove one thing: someone was here before us, and they mapped our world before we even knew it existed. If this video made you question what you thought you knew about history, subscribe to Past Pulse. We bring the past back to life every week, and what we find might change how you see the future.